Hey everyone, Andrew Bourget. Andrew Bourget here with Ship Angel. Appreciate everyone taking your time to join us here for this live demo. Um, just some quick housekeeping. What I'm going to do here over the next 30 minutes here is show you guys around the Ship Angel platform. I think what you're going to find here is a number of different ways you can utilize both artificial intelligence, but also the Ship Angel platform in tandem to really understand what's going on in your supply chain, what your rates are that you have amongst your supply chain partners. And so it's going to be a really good opportunity to really learn some new things. If you guys have questions through this process, please let me know. Right here in the sort of live demo, there should be an opportunity for you to leave some comments. Please ask some questions. We really want to hear from you guys. We want to know what you guys think, what you guys are curious about. We're very much here to support you. So please let us know if you have any questions, and we can kind of go from there. First things first, Ship Angel. We are an AI native enterprise resource planning tool for the supply chain industry. And so our flagship product is what we call rate management. And what we believe is it's the cornerstone of international shipping. Nothing happens, nothing moves unless you have a rate in shipping. And so the first problem that Ship Angel solved for was the requirement for most ERP systems, most platforms for international trade to upload your rates in a templatized format. What we've been able to do through our artificial intelligence machine learning system that we've built is to process all of those rates with artificial intelligence so that they give you access to more data, and it gives you access to this data more quickly. And so traditionally, team members would have to key in the rates, upload the rates, put them in a specific format. Today, your teams simply negotiate rates, and they forward those rates onto Ship Angel to be able to present inside the platform for you in a turnaround time that is less than 24 hours. And we're seeing on a month-to-month basis, we're running somewhere between 15 and 17 hours. And so what that means is you send a rate today, by tomorrow, it'll be in the platform and you'll have the visibility to the rate yourself as well as the rest of your organization. And so a handful of our biggest customers have a lot of members on their team that are either managing international shipments, managing sales orders, trying to go find sales orders. And so all of those people need access to the rates, and they get them pretty quickly. What's really, really important for Ship Angel is we are able to process rates for multiple modalities. And so processing a rate is one thing, but showing you the rate inside the platform is where we shine. And so when I put a rate here in from Shanghai to New York City, and I switch over to the LCL calculator, what you're going to get the ability to do is see your rates inside the platform for less than container load. And I can come through and say, hey, what are my rates on these lanes? I have a rate from Shanghai to Red Bank, New Jersey, and here's where it's going through. You have the ability to understand what your cost is. And so the way we do this is it's pretty hard to conceptualize less than container load shipments when they are all in different units. And so you have cost per kg, cost per shipment, cost per weight and measure. Sometimes there's also other costs that are all essentially in different units. You can't conceptualize what that means. And so what we've been able to do is when we upload rates, we upload a base calculation. And so as I look at my rate cards, I know pretty quickly on an average LCL shipment for me and my business, what does that look like in terms of presenting these rates on the platform? Additionally, which is super useful here, we also have the ability for you to put in an exact weight. And so if your team is evaluating a shipment of, let's just say it's 6,000 kilos, then we'll just say it's 5 CBMs. When I enter this into our LCL calculator, what the rate card did is it recalculated based on this new all-in value. And so what it's showing you is, hey, this costs about $2,000 if you were to do this move to go from Shanghai door to Red Bank door. And what's super important here is now I can weigh this out. Do I ship it on an LCL or do I ship this move on a full container basis? Additionally, inside the surcharges, you get a lot of detail. What are my charges? How is it broken down? If I need to negotiate a specific charge, I know what my charges are. I can pull them up for myself in procurement, or my teams internationally can always have the ability to pull up these rates. What's super useful is we also have lots of filters. And so you can filter down by shipper, you can filter down by the vendor. Maybe I want to see my Kunanaga rates, not my DSV rates. In addition, you have different service levels. And so maybe I have a standard service, I have a deferred service when it comes to LCL, and we can also ensure that those get into the platform for visibility to you and your entire organization. What's super valuable is I can also go back and now search that same lane. I can do a Shanghai to New York City rate for my full container rates. Here is where the system is probably the most robust in terms of our rate management services. And so in here, you get a lot more information beyond just your information, which is where it gives you the ability to sort of understand, as I call it, what does your rate mean? And so here we're looking at a Shanghai to New York City rate with Hapag-Lloyd. We know what service to book on. We know what the transit time is. We also know the commodity. We know my all-in costs at the bottom of the screen here. And just like in the LCL, I could click in and look at my surcharges. In addition, in FCL, you can look at your demurrage and detention. What is the demurrage that I've negotiated with Hapag-Lloyd? What's the detention? In this case, it's 21 days at destination. All of this is viewable inside the platform. What's super valuable here is transit times are listed. And so here is where you start to understand what's my vendor's transit time and how does it compare against my transit time. 38 versus 38 tells me that the vendor's transit matches very closely to what your transit is. And what you can do is go to our schedules tab here and you can validate that schedule data and that transit time data. Because what we're doing is constantly updating our schedules to ensure that you're able to accurately benchmark your rates against the market's transit time. And so this is probably the first place that we bring in third-party data to allow you to understand your rates versus what's happening outside in the market. The second place we do this is the idea of CO2. It's not turned on for this test environment, but if CO2 is important for your decision-making processes, you can also utilize the CO2 function to say, maybe I pick MSC over Hapag based on their CO2 footprint. The most important place that we bring in third-party data is around the rate benchmarks. And so whoever you're using for rate benchmarking, we can bring their data inside the ShipAngel platform to ensure that you are benchmarking your Hapag-Lloyd rates up against the market correctly. And so here, what we can see is based on this rate on this lane, my Hapag-Lloyd rate is about 10% lower than the market average. And so what you're able to tell very quickly is that you have a good rate on this lane, and it's something you can be proud of. But what's important here is you can also identify when you don't have a good rate. And so I'm going to scroll down to a different rate card. This is a Shanghai to New York City rate card for DSV. And when I open up this rate card, what I'm able to see is that my green line is now above the market average line in blue. Now this system tells me, hey, I got some work to go do. My rate is 21% above the market, even at a very low rate of $2,200. This is something where you should go back to your vendors, start to push back, and try to ensure that your rates are staying competitive. What's important to notice here is this is a DSV rate from a third-party logistics provider, regardless of who you're using, direct carriers, 3PLs, whoever you're using through that process, we can process and show you the rates in the platform. And regardless of the duration of your rates, maybe some of you here are short-term shippers on the Trans-Pacific market. Twice a month, you're getting new rates. The FAK market is where you move your cargo. Regardless of whether it's a contractual rate or a short-term rate, we are still going to give you the ability to look short-term versus long-term. So the validity on this lane happened to be valid for 30 days. And so the validity here when we're doing the benchmarking is ensuring it defaults to short-term. So you're always going to make sure you're making an apples to apples comparison when you're looking at third-party benchmark data. Additionally, what's super important for ShipAngel is that we are giving you that apples to apples experience. And what we've also been able to do is bring in some new functionality recently that gives us the ability to look at things on a door-to-door basis inside of your rate cards, which we had before. But what was super important for us is we now give you the ability to quickly alter the rate. And so our rate calculation here gives us all of our surcharges, but what we're able to do is bucket things into separate categories, origin dray, destination dray being one of them. What it'll allow you to do is, regardless of whether you move from a door or a port, I can still adjust this pricing to what we call custom pricing. This custom pricing correlates to just the port to port piece. And so when I want to know, is my Savannah to Shanghai rate competitive? I can toggle to custom pricing. I can come into my rate graph and I can understand my rate of $190 on this lane represents a competitive rate in comparison to the market. The third-party benchmark sites that we work with do not have drayage costs built into their platforms. Drayage is one of the sort of hard places to get competitive rate benchmark data on. But what we can do is give you the ability to still look at your rates apples to apples, regardless of how you're moving those rates. And that's really important for us as we have the configurableness of our platform can ensure that we fit your vendors, your rates, your process and setup will still work inside the ShipAngel platform. That is pretty hard to replicate inside of an Excel spreadsheet these days. That's something that we're super proud about, and I think you guys would find use on as well. Additionally, what's super valuable is inside the ShipAngel application, we are processing your rates with our sort of in-house built artificial intelligence machine learning system. What's also super valuable is that same system that processes your rates, you can also use to understand your rates and ask questions to your rates. And so inside this Copilot, I could ask very simple questions like, what is my Shanghai to New York City rate with CMA all in per 40 IQ? I can ask relatively straightforward questions. Go find me the data. Tell me what the data says. And the systems can do this really quickly. It doesn't necessarily replace your need to go search for a rate. You can still go into the search function, go to Ocean, full container load, and search for this lane. But imagine I'm walking from meeting to meeting. I'm in a meeting with a customer. I'm in a meeting with the C-suite, and they're asking questions that you don't have answers to. You can pull it up here on your computer. You can go to app.shipangel.com. You can log in, and you can ask the question to the Copilot. Or we also have the ability to utilize our platform on mobile devices. So pull up your phone, open a Chrome browser, open an Apple Safari browser, and very quickly you can get into the Copilot and ask your questions. What's also useful here is you don't necessarily need to do this on singular yes, no type questions. What is my rate? You can also start to ask, what is my average rate from, let's say, Shanghai to Antwerp over the last, let's say, 6 months. And so what's valuable here is you can now start to ask more complicated questions that require context, questions that require some thinking. And without you pulling out your TI-83 calculator, punching in all of the search results, you can ask the question very broadly or try to be very specific, and we're still going to be able to give you an answer here. And so what the system went back and did is it pulled out all of the rates for all of the lanes for the carriers that you have rates for, and it was able to tell me, look, your average rate on this lane is $2,508. So the system is really intelligent and really helps the users get to those answers faster. Ultimately, no one's looking at their rates to try to have fun. They're looking at their rates to get understanding on those rates in terms of many different factors. Additionally, we have the ability to look at air volumes. And so inside the air section, you can search a lane. I'm going to do a repeat search here from Bangkok. And so now very quickly, I can see what providers, what carriers do I have rates with for these lanes. And then additionally, as in the ocean, you can also look at the benchmarks and say, based on this lane, based on my rate, I have some work to do. My rate's a little bit higher than where the market is. And this can be really valuable for companies to come in and understand, what does my rate mean? Am I competitive or am I not competitive? We also have the ability to do this in trucking. And additionally, inside of trucking, we also have less than container load, which looks very similar to our LCL search results. But in here, you can start to bring in, what are my moves, in this case, from Leeds to Wrexham? What are the surcharges involved? What's my freight cost? What are all the pieces of this puzzle ultimately that costs me $2,565 based on my base case? These things change, and so we work with different customers who have different size base shipments. But at the end of the day, we can still get all of your rate data inside the platform. I like to use the kind of the joke that we really cover every single modality, with the exception of parcel delivery and space travel. And hopefully the latter is something that we do sooner rather than later, because it seems to be becoming very popular. One of the super valuable things about ShipAngel that is still pretty new for us is the idea that we want to be that enterprise resource planning tool that our customers in supply chain logistics are using. And so when I go into the platform, I don't just use it to look at my rate data. I also want to use it to sort of go from procure to pay. And so there's a whole bunch of modules and processes and things that have to happen from when you procure a rate and till the end of the cycle when you pay that rate. And one of those is something that we are very, very interested in, is the idea of invoice auditing. And our customers are really starting to get used to this and starting to make some serious savings. What it allows you to do is come inside the platform and you can upload your invoices. Maybe you upload the invoices you received today. Maybe you upload the invoices you received for the last month. All of it flows into the platform. And then what we're going to do is utilize, again, that same artificial intelligence machine learning system that we built, that you can now search your rates in AI Copilot. You can also process your rates with it. And we can also read your invoices and compare, are you being undercharged or are you being overcharged? And so this is an example of a rate that was put into our system where there was what we call a discrepancy. And so what our system is going to do is read the invoice. It's going to parse out a lot of information: invoice number, vendor, from, to, the rate application date, which some carriers give you, some carriers don't. This information we're going to put in the system, and then we're going to go back on a step 2, and we're going to look at all of the rates that we expect for this lane and compare them to what you were actually billed. And so what the system is going to be able to do is, to a penny, tell us, hey, we expected $2,500. We got invoiced at $2,612. There's a difference. There's a discrepancy. There's an increase in what I expected. And so the system flags this one as a discrepancy, so that when you and the team log in, very quickly the teams can say, hey, let me filter to status discrepant. And from here, they can action these. Maybe you uploaded 100 invoices. You come in and start working through this list. And the idea here is that you're always going to have invoices that are wrong. As much as I love ocean carriers and 3PL companies, their invoice accuracy is not 100%. And so you're always going to have something to work through. What's important here is that you know where you need to spend your time. You don't need to spend your time on the invoices that are correct. And so this invoice in here, and just unfilter, that is matched. I don't need, as a human being, to come in and go, invoice number, let me check, did I get it right? Yep, it's matched. Let me look at this invoice. You can save minutes, hours of your day by focusing the work on the invoices that need attention, the things that are discrepant. And what's also super useful here is we can always bring this data out of that platform. And so I can export this data and pass this on to my finance team to say, hey, here's 10 invoices that I received for the month of October that can be paid. Please go pay these. There's many different ways to push data out of the system, but we believe that invoice audit is going to allow you to spend less time looking at invoices, scrolling through spreadsheets to compare those invoices up against, and give you the ability to uncover savings inside your supply chain. And those savings could be dollars. $112 for some means a lot, or it could be thousands. You could be billed up, $5,000 more than you expected. And I think a lot of people want that $5,000 back inside their coffers versus sending that out to their vendors. Inside the ShipAngel platform, there's also other little pieces that we really think customers like, to be able to manage their rates. One of them is the idea of what we call My Routes. And so inside this system, you're able to come in and pre-save all of the origins and destinations that matter for you. And so from here, what you can see is I have a whole bunch of lanes out of Shanghai to a couple different places here. What's important to note is the system, as default, is going to show you what we call top rates. And so you're going to see your cheapest rate, your fastest rate, and your lowest CO2 rates right here on the platform. Additionally, you're going to see those market averages next to it. And so what it allows you to do is say, okay, Shanghai to Savannah, my lowest rate is a CMA rate of $2,082. You can click on this. You can see the rate card will pop up. You can dig into the surcharges. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do here to look at the rate and understand the rate, but you can also compare it directly up against the rate benchmarks. The long-term market average is $2,579, which is a little bit higher than my rate. And so you're able to quickly validate all of your rates that matter most for you. In addition, say you come in and save 100 of your top 100 lanes. So you're a big shipper with a lot of lanes. In here, you can simply come in and say New York, and then you can filter very, very quickly down to Shanghai to New York. My rate 2082, the market's 2579. In addition, we also give you the ability to look at this by vendor. And so now I can see DSV, CMA, Hapag-Lloyd, MSC, all of my carriers and my vendors are in one place for me to then compare apples to apples to apples to understand, again, what do my rates mean? Not just where are they and what are they? It's really what do they mean? One of the things that we are probably most excited about inside the ShipAngel platform is our transition, again, from going hopefully from procure to pay. We want to be that execution layer for the BCO shippers to make bookings and start the process of moving cargo. Today, that process is difficult. You can go to a carrier's website, you can log in, make a booking. You can go to a 3PL's website, log in, make a booking. But all of these interactions happen in their websites that are all separate, and they're always going to be separate. What's useful here is when I look at, let's do Yantian to LA. This would be a nice lane to look at. When I search a lane inside of our ocean freight system, some of you might have saw this when I was going through, but we have a book button at the bottom of the screen. What this book button allows you to do is start that process. And so through the power of APIs, API connections with the ocean carriers, we can now start to create the bookings inside your platform. And so I can request a booking. There's some information that we already know because we know your rates, we know your vendors, we know your contract numbers, we know your contacts at these carriers. This information we can pre-populate into your booking screen. From here, you simply need to come in and say, look, I'm going to make one 40-foot high cube booking. What's super cool is we now start to give you the total cost. And so if I'm working in a purchase order management system elsewhere, or I'm talking to someone, I now know very validating, hey, cost for 2 containers is $3,000. Cost for 2 containers is $3,000. Cost for 3 containers is $5,000. You're very quickly able to see this rate. Additionally, you can select the cargo ready date. I know it's going to come out of the factory on November 8th. And so that's probably where we want to start that booking process. Once I click submit, what we're able to do is send this request off to the carriers to now start that process of getting that shipment booked, which most of our folks here on this call know doesn't happen in minutes and seconds. But what we're able to do is start that process from your rate management system, the system where you manage your rates, where you store your rates. You can now look at a rate, click a button, and then within a few clicks, you're able to make a booking and start this process. And what's super important is all of this information is now sitting inside the platform. I can view rates. I can see this rate card that this is booked under. I can see everything that is along with the shipment in terms of where it's going to go from and to. I see a map of this. And what's nice is once this container actually sails, we'll able to then track this and show you where on the journey your shipment is and when it'll arrive at its final destination. We have connections into a visibility platform that's going to give you the ability to really understand where your cargo is at any given time without having to bounce around from one website to another. All of that can be done right inside the ShipAngel platform. This is something we're super excited about. Additionally, you have the ability to upload your shipping instructions when we get to that status and start to sort of do some of the documentation step that's involved there as well. One of the coolest features of the booking platform, the execution layer of our system, is the idea of our Maddie personal AI assistant. And so Maddie is there as a sort of guardrail to make sure you're making the right decisions, suggesting decisions for you, or helping you manage complex complex situations that, frankly, you just need an extra hand. And so Maddie lives here by connecting all of your data operationally, all of your contract and rate data. By bringing this all together in one cohesive place, you're really able to understand your rates, but also make yourself better as a logistician. And so, Maddie, what we do in the onboarding process is we would understand what things are important to you to be able to ask questions to Maddie. Maybe it's the idea of, am I overbooked on this carrier? Based on the booking you're trying to make, Maddie can tell you, hey, maybe you want to reconsider this. There's some delays on cargo that's routed over the Cape of Good Hope. Maybe you want to consider a different transit corridor to get your cargo moved. Maddie is really there to make you a better logistician and hopefully make you make better decisions. And that's something we're super proud about, and we're starting to develop here as we roll this out. Additionally, what's super important is you also get an overview here of all of your bookings. And so now all of your bookings live inside the platform, and they live in the statuses in which those shipments are. And so your teams, as they are managing these shipments, can come in and go, you know what? I need to do all my shipping instructions for this week. And I can filter by status, shipping instruction required, and I can start to work through those and say, okay, let me come in. This is the deadline of this is technically passed in terms of the shipping instructions submission, but I can come in and now I can start this process of filling out the shipping instructions. What we're also looking to do here in the short term is also it gives you the ability to upload documentation. And so your shipping instructions might need to be based off of your packing list and some other information. And so you can upload PDFs, you can upload documents that allow us to bring that data into the platform so that you don't have to come through and type all this. So that's something we're super excited about. But what's, I think groundbreaking for most BCO shippers is now they can have one place to manage their rates, one place to look at their rates, and they can also have one place to execute their bookings. Regardless of the ocean carrier you're using, regardless of the 3PL that you're using, we're going to be able to bring that process to your fingertips versus having to send an email, log into a different website every time, or put trust into a third party to make sure that they make these bookings for you. We give you the power to really do it yourself and understand what's going on. In addition, because we have lots of data, we're also going to be able to give you lots of dashboards, lots of overviews to understand where is my cargo, when is it going to get there, and how much am I paying, and in some cases, how much am I paying more or less than I should. So I hope you guys probably found this pretty interesting. I hope the ShipAngel application is slowly evolving every single day. What I can tell you is, we're in constant communication with our current customers, with our future customers, and our engineering team, and we're making tons of updates on a daily basis. And so how the platform looks today, you could go back, just 2 months ago, and what the application looks like today is very different than what I'm presenting today to you guys here on this call. I apologize. Our dashboard section seems to be a little bit slow. I'm in the office here in New York City. Here we go. It loaded once I refreshed, and so the Wi-Fi is not tip top. But in here, you'll see an overview. What are the shipments that I have? That are either moving, about to move. Where are they on the tracking of the map? There's a lot of ability here for you guys to manage your rates, your bookings, and your system directly inside the ShipAngel application. If you guys have questions, please reach out. Our sales cycle is very much a show, don't tell process. We're going to show you how the platform works. We'd love to talk further with anyone on this call if they're interested in the rate management, if they're interested in the bookings, if they're interested in invoice audit. All of these things, we can bring your data, your rate data, we can bring your invoice data, we can show you what the application looks like with your information inside of it. We call it a strategic demo, and we believe that it brings a lot of value to a lot of customers. But nonetheless, if you guys have any questions, please reach out. Again, my name is Andrew Bourget, Head of Customer Operations for ShipAngel, and I look forward to hopefully talking to some of you again really soon. Thanks, everyone. I hope you have a great day.